Hello everybody, ciao a tutti, welcome to Wild Wild Podcast. This is the final episode in basically a season that's taken the whole of 2024 so far.
Yes.
And yeah, we've been talking about Fumetti films, and we finally get to the chance to wrap things up, see what we thought. What were our favourites? What were definitely not our favourites? And so, joining me on throughout this quest to see all these Fumetti movies has been Rod Barnett. Hello, Rod.
Hello, Adrian. It has been fun for the most part, for about I'd say 85% of the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we dig into these films, is there anything you've got coming out that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Well, as we move into October, we've got a few episodes of The Bloody Pit coming up that are focused on the scary stuff.
It is that most wonderful time of the year.
Yes, it is. 31 days of Halloween as we roll our way through the month. I've got 2 episodes scheduled for The Bloody Pit. One focused on the Universal Mummy movie, The Mummy's Ghost. That'll be coming out a week or so. And then after that, an episode that will begin what will probably be another ongoing thread of episodes for The Bloody Pit, focused on the films of Stuart Gordon. We're going chronologically, therefore we'll be starting with Reanimator.
Yeah, so yes, we talked about this last time, but I do love Reanimator. And what other Stuart Gordon films are you planning to cover then? Or just all of them?
Yeah, pretty much everyone that he's directed.
Cool.
So we'll move from Reanimator to From Beyond, then Dolls, and then I was just looking over the entire list earlier today, and it's gonna be an interesting ride, because after Dolls, it's Robot Jocks, The Pit and the Pendulum,
Yeah.
Fortress, Castle Freak, Space Truckers, a personal favorite of mine. The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit.
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's an adaptation of a Ray Bradbury short story that he actually originally adapted as a stage play years before. Of course, he spent decades producing and directing sometimes controversial stage work.
Yeah.
From the late '60s up through the '80s. But The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit is, I wouldn't say it's at all controversial. It's it's a fantasy film, but but that was what he did right after Space Truckers, and then Dagon, King of Ants, Edmund, and Stuck. It's going to take us a while to do. I'm thinking we'll probably talk a little bit about some of the bigger movies that he co-wrote and got up onto the big screen as we go along. Things like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kid films that he was involved with as a writer, and also the Abel Ferrara version of Body Snatchers that he co-wrote. Some interesting stuff along the way. Yeah.
That's going to so that's a whole season you're doing, basically.
Pretty much. We're going to, being the slackers that we are, it will take us probably a decade to get through them all, because it's going to be me, my regular co-host Troy Gwynn, and our buddy John Hudson. We're the ones that are going to be doing this, so it'll all revolve around how often we can schedule a time for the three of us to be in the same space and actually do this kind of thing. But we do hope to start off with a bang, much as Stuart Gordon did himself with Reanimator.
Oh, very nice. I bought the Stuart Gordon's autobiography that came out last year. But I haven't read it yet. But it does look cool.
Mr. Hudson, the last time I saw him, which was about a week ago, he was already perusing his copy of that as well for research. So looking like it's going to be interesting.
Cool. Yeah, very good. I haven't got anything in particular to plug since last time. So just I've had some reviews published on Cinema Retro. I've been reviewing a lot of stuff lately.
Yeah, I saw that.
if anyone's interested in what I think about things, then you can go over and have a look on the Cinema Retro website. In fact, if you scroll down the page, you'll see there's a list of all the regular contributors, and you'll see my name at the top. And if you click on Adrian Smith, you'll see everything I've ever reviewed on the Cinema Retro website. And there's quite a lot, actually. Mm. But I've been reviewing a lot of books and Blu-ray releases and stuff lately, so check that out. But anyway, without a moment to lose, now we have agreed to sort of rank these films. But before that, I did give you the chance to do a bit of a bonus watch as a way of wrapping things up with this season. So, Rod, first of all, let's start with you. I asked you to watch the 2021 release, Diabolik, directed by the Minetti brothers.
È un uomo. Ma dalle capacità straordinarie.
Mi piacerebbe incontrarlo.
And starring quite a popular Italian actor, Luca Marinelli, playing Diabolik, Miriam Leone playing Eva Kant, and then also another very popular Italian actor, Valerio Mastandrea as Jinko, the detective on their trail. So, what did you think of Diabolik?
I really enjoyed it. Of course, I kind of assumed that I would, but I have heard a lot of moaning and complaining about it from different quarters because it is very serious. There is no wink and nod involved in this storytelling at all. This seems, and this is just a guess, as I've not read or heard any behind the scenes work about the film because I haven't had the time. I've had the time to see the film only, unfortunately, and there are no extras that I can dip into without speaking Italian, sad to say. But the thing that about this that is a little off-putting is at least at first I was able to get past it, is the look of the film, the way it's shot. But I understand one reason why they may have done what they did, which seems to have been an attempt to film this very much not just in the not just as an adaptation of the original comics in both their tone and structure, but also as kind of a nod to the way in which comic books artwork is viewable. And in other words, it often at times seems overlit, and I don't mean that to say that it was that it's often too bright. That's not what I mean. It's that there's a dearth of shadow and atmosphere at times when I think that it might have behooved them to have a little creeping fog and shadows cast over actors and different things like that. In other words, I see what they're doing. I don't know that I would have necessarily gone in that direction for that particular look, but I can't complain about the film. If you're looking for a straightforward adaptation of the character as presented on the page, wow, yeah, this is the murderous bastard who was on the page all those decades ago in full strength. So I was impressed. Also, I would say about the actors, they're all very good. It's hard to judge the performance at times of the man playing Diabolik. The man playing Diabolik. It's hard to judge him at times because he is asked to be so stoic and unemotional as the character was originally written. But the actress who's playing Eva Kant is a revelation.
Oh, she's great, isn't she? Yeah, Miriam Leone.
She's astonishingly good. The first, I guess, 20 minutes of the film, I was a little worried that she wasn't going to be a very good actress, and then, boy, did that turn out to be a wrong assumption. My goodness, and the actor playing the pursuing
Jinko
is fantastic.
Yeah.
But just really enjoyed the film. It's very dark in tone. Those looking for something following on the stylistic version of Danger Diabolik from Mario Bava that we all know and love from 50 plus years ago, you're not going to get that. You're going to get a straight, much more serious adaptation of the character, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to. I understand that there's going to be a release of all three of the films sometime over here in the States, and I will happily sit and wait for that to come out in the hopes that there will be some juicy extras, and I will enjoy seeing what they did to wrap up the story, to kind of book it. Well, I can't wait to see them do more in this style. It's kind of fascinating. Like I say, my one caveat being the how about some mist? How about a little something?
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, I think, again, we've talked about this through this season. One of the problems with all of these films is that people just keep comparing everything to Danger Diabolik. And for fans of that who've watched these films, one of the complaints is it's not as stylish or 60s kind of pop art and not as funny. But that's because Danger Diabolik is not very much like the comics at all.
No.
That's its own thing. And these films are definitely adaptations of the comics. And they take they're adapted from actual plot lines in the comics. Yeah, I think they're really fun. And you're right, the cast are great. But so in the second film, Jinko is called Jinko Attacks. And Jinko is kind of centre stage as he's hunting down Diabolik. And Monica Bellucci is actually one of the lead characters in the second film.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And then, sadly, the third film, Diabolik, Qui sei, Diabolik, Who Are You? Which is adapted from a very famous fumetti where basically Diabolik and Jinko get locked together in a cell, and a lot of it is them talking, and Diabolik explains to Jinko his origin story and why he wears the mask and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the third film, and the Blu-ray doesn't have English subtitles, so I haven't seen that one. But like you said, there are these rumours that somebody, I don't know who, I'm going to guess at somebody like Kino, perhaps, but
maybe
somebody is going to put these out in America that'll be more English friendly. But
I will be looking forward to it.
I'll be first in line for those. Yeah, but I think they're great. They capture the look of the comics really well, and they're very rooted in that 60s look and the kind of the weird French-Italian crossover of Clairville, and the architecture and the vehicles and the costumes. I think they did a really great job in their low budget, and you can tell at times, but I think they did a great job.
Honestly, I don't know. I would be hard pressed to know what the budget was, and I didn't notice any spots where I could see where there was a lack of money that was hindering things as far as as just what I was seeing on screen. But I was impressed with the refusal to admit what time period things were set in.
Yeah.
It's clearly before the age of cell phones, but we're not specifying, is this the 60s, is it the 70s? It feels a lot like one of those two decades. But, yeah, it's really and it's really impressive that they managed to not flub that kind of unspoken decades past period setting.
Yeah.
So.
And his underground lair is much more realistic as an underground lair, unlike obviously the Bava one, where he's got this incredible underground lair, which we talked about at the time. Like, who built that? How did he get that built? He must have killed all of the men who worked on it after it was finished. Whereas in this film, at least, his underground lair, you can kind of believe one guy could build that himself.
Yeah, taking enough time, he could clearly have created this place. Yeah,
and there's some good sort of twists and turns, and yet he is a horrible, horrible guy in this film.
Flat out murderer.
Yeah, and gaslighting. There's all kinds of stuff going on here, but but obviously the central thing is the relationship between Diabolik and Eva, who he meets because he's robbing her.
Yep.
Let's not forget. So I don't know. There's some kind of, what's it called, Stockholm syndrome or something there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it turns out it does turn out that she's already before the film starts more than a little on the dark side herself, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm really glad you liked it. I think it's just cool that somebody's making this kind of stuff. It's good. These things are still being done, because there have been previous attempts to adapt Diabolik that have not been particularly successful, and there was even a Diabolik video game about 10 or 15 years ago. But because it's just still so popular in Italy, it's still published every week, I think, or every other week. Every week, I think. Anyway.
Well, once again, the Diabolik, the comics, I would advocate for English adaptations being more readily available. I would love to read lots of them. I would love to read lots and lots of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got loads of them. Well, not loads. I've got a good handful of them because I always buy at least one or two when I'm in Italy. But haven't read any of them yet because I haven't got around to learning Italian well enough to read them. So whilst you were watching something quite classy and high quality, I was watching Super Stooges versus the Wonder Women.
The 1974 classic.
Directed by our friend Alfonso Brescia. And the Italian title is Super Uomini, Super Donne, Super Botte. And I've struggled to get a definitive translation of what that is. If anyone listening from Italy, I know we have some listeners in Italy, if you can tell me what Super Botte is supposed to mean, because it's super men, super women, and then there's no specific Italian word as far as I can tell. Botte, B-O-T-T-E. On its own, it seems to translate as some kind of barrel or storage thing, but then with super in front, maybe it means bodies, super bodies, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure what it means, but anyway. But that title makes more sense. I don't know why the British title, or the English title, I should say, is Super Stooges versus the Wonder Women. Why they're called Super Stooges, it doesn't make any sense at all. But this is a film that feels a little bit like a prequel to Ator the Fighting Eagle, if you know that film.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It kind of feels like it's set in the same world as that. And it's about this tribe of these Amazon women who are the bad guys. They are the aggressors in this film, and the setup is kind of like Seven Samurai or The Magnificent Seven, where there is a village who are under constant threat from the Amazon women who want to rule them and tax them and everything. And the village are under the protection of a guy called Dharma, who is apparently this immortal magician. But the whole thing is a sort of a front, and he actually is just the guy who lives in a cave, and he's got all these clever tricks that he plays to make them think he's an immortal magician. But actually, he's just one in a long line of Dharmas. So the latest Dharma trains the next one, who then takes over when he dies, and so on and so on and so on. So Dharma has been looking after this village for 400 years, but it's actually not the same guy. It's just different guys wearing a mask and doing little magic tricks. So Dharma's pupil is Aldo Canti, and Aldo Canti we've seen before in the 3 Fantastic Supermen.
Okay.
He was the guy who was the former circus performer, who was constantly. Do you remember the one who was like a mute and he just laughed all the time?
Very physical and acrobatic, but
very irritating character.
Yeah, the kind of character that you kept hoping was going to be crushed by a heavy rock.
Yeah,
whatever it was. Yes, that's
him. So he's the star of this movie, and he's actually got lines to say this time. Thank goodness.
Wow, you have just guaranteed I will never see this film.
Yeah. So he's Dharma's pupil who has to take over when Dharma dies, and he's got to face off with the Amazon women who are threatening this village. a couple of things to say. So first of all, there are three of them, obviously. So he sort of picks up these other guys who help him. So one is a guy called Moog, Moog. He is
he's a synthesizer. He's a really good synthesizer.
Well, the funny thing is, so okay, this is a good point for me to drop this in. The opening theme for this film, and indeed most of the incidental music, I think is played on a Moog. So it's really, because this film effectively feels like a Peplum movie, but the score is completely inappropriate. The opening theme sounds like one of those late 70s, early 80s educational programs for children that we used to get here in the UK. It's got a real sort of radiophonic workshop vibe about it. So okay. I'll just play some here. And now imagine versions of that theme all the way through in inappropriate moments. Yeah, so we've got Moog, who is a kind of African Hercules type figure. He's a good fighter and very strong and heart of gold and all that sort of thing. And then the other hero that he meets is a character called Chung, an Asian superhero, and he's played by Hua Yue. And the reason that there is an Asian hero in this film is because, bizarrely, this is a co-production with the Shaw Brothers.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, this is a Hong Kong-Italian co-production. So there are two Asian characters who get involved in fights. So Chung, and then there is a female fighter who begins as an enemy but then sort of joins his side, played by Lynn Moody. And she's good at... no, not Lynn Moody. Sorry, played by Karen Ye. That's her. And so, yeah, so there is a couple... There are some sort of martial arts scenes. And, yeah, it's a really odd film to be a Shaw Brothers co-production. But I was looking into this, partly because I'm doing a lot of Shaw Brothers research at the moment for another project. Mm. And it turns out that the Shaw Brothers did at least 4 international co-productions they all came out in 1974. And this is all because of the success of Enter the Dragon. So when they saw Golden Harvest having this amazing success doing an international co-production, they immediately leapt into action. So they did two co-productions with Hammer.
Yep. One of which I love. So
yeah, and what's it called? The Seven
Golden Vampires. Yeah.
Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires and Shatter. And then also there's this movie, and then they did a West German co-production called, depending on where you're from, either the Bod Squad or Enter the Seven Virgins.
I've never heard of that one. Okay, I'll have to seek that one out.
Yes. So anyway, there's just sort of bizarre Shaw Brothers Italian co-production directed by the guy who made The Beast in Space.
Yes. And
of course, my favourite film, what's it called? Erotic Games in the Third Galaxy from our first season. Loved that one. Yeah, so it's actually not bad if you watch it as a peplum. It's not really a superhero movie, although they're called the Three Supermen. But yeah, basically they have to defend the village from the Amazons. The Amazons feel exactly like they are the same Amazon women from Ator the Fighting Eagle. And there's lots of action, there's lots of comedy, there's lots of inappropriate comedy sound effects during fight sequences. Lots of comedy boings, and
glad I'm not going to be seeing this one then. Yeah.
Oh, in fact, there's one scene in particular where it's all just that. I'll stick a little bit of that in here as well, so you can hear what I mean. Yeah, it's just kind of boing, thwack, boing, boing, and all of that. So, Alfonso Brescia, the master of subtlety, it's very broad. Broad.
He's also the master of just irritating the hell out of me. But
yeah. I mean, let's not forget, he also did, was that War of the Planets or one of those?
Yes, the
really boring.
The two very generic science fiction films produced for about a $35 meal for the crew. Both of them are insanely dull. Yes.
Yeah. Now, apparently, this film has a cult following in Germany, and I would love to get hold of an English subtitled version of the German dub, because apparently there is a hilarious German dub of this film. Where it's kind of deliberately comedic, almost in a sort of MST3K way. So there's a German dub that basically ignores the actual plot and just creates something entirely funny. So I think there's a kind of popular following in Germany, but probably not for the reasons that Alfonso Brescia would have hoped. But the version I watched was an English dub, and the picture quality was pretty good. I managed to find a decent version of this. So I'm glad I saw it. It's got some entertaining moments, and just the fact that it's a Shaw Brothers co-production. I'm trying to watch a lot of Shaw Brothers films these days. I got two of the two Arrow box sets so far. So I'm trying to up my Hong Kong game. So it was quite fun to discover that as I started watching this, that it was a Shaw Brothers movie. But it's basically not a superhero film. The title is misleading. It's much more like one of those team-ups where you get Hercules and Samson and, all those
Ulysses,
kind of ones. Ulysses and Machiste. And
yeah.
It's much more like a late Peplum than a superhero film. But because the main guy, played by Aldo Canti, he does wear a mask, and so he's got a superhero mask and a red cape. And he jumps around a lot. He doesn't fly, but he's very springy, as we saw in the other film. He's always doing somersaults and leaping up tall.
Well, he wouldn't be leaping over cars in this, so I guess it would be rocks.
No, he's leaping over rocks, and he's leaping over fortifications and fighting the bad guys, who are all basically sexy Amazons in white bikinis.
Well, as long as our main hero there can find those hidden trampolines, it's easy to jump over things.
Oh yeah,
so.
They're they're not even that hidden. But yeah, this is very much the trampoline school of action. But I kind of enjoyed it, but it's not one I can imagine you being desperate to watch.
No, you're right. You are correct, sir. Yes.
But anyway, there you go. So that sort of wraps things up there. I think we've covered lots of different superhero and supervillain and adjacent movies in this season. But let's not keep people waiting any longer.
Oh yes,
so
they came here for a ranking episode.
Here we are. Yeah. So Rod, do you want to start us off from 10 down to 1?
Oh, okay. So in reverse order. Okay.
Yeah, let's do reverse order and keep some suspense.
Man, come on! There's not any suspense about what's going to be number one for both of us.
Well, you never know. So why don't you tell us what you thought? Oh, and I'm going to play the Pick of the Pops countdown theme whilst you do this, just for extra fun.
Oh my goodness! Okay, folks, here we go. Out of the, actually 12 films that we covered in this in this season, because the first two episodes we did cover 2 films that is shot, both the original of each and its sequel. I will have to say that I'm going to kind of rank them in a weird way. It goes like this. The bottom of the list for me is going to have to be Phenomenal and The Treasure of Tutankhamun from 1968. It's not that I dislike it a lot. It's just easily the weakest as far as direction is concerned, and it falls down in too many areas visually for it to really rise above that bottom rank.
Yeah.
So do you agree with that?
Well, we'll find out.
Okay. Well, right above that is a film that I like a little bit more, but it just wasn't as interesting as I had hoped it would be. I remember seeing it years ago and revisiting it now with an eye toward critiquing it. Kind of cemented this. So I enjoy this film a good bit more than phenomenal, but it still kind of falls down for me, and that's Satanic. I like it, but it isn't as good as I hoped it would be. I like it, but it's not great.
Okay. Right
above that is actually a movie that I'm a little surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It doesn't fit comfortably within the masked hero, masked villain, masked criminal kind of thing, because there's very little of the masking going on in it. But that would be Avenger X. I really enjoyed it. Like it a little bit more than Satanic, but my original thought was that Satanic I enjoyed more, but quite honestly, I think a lot of that boils down to the fact that we have such a great looking version of Satanic now that I have to really kind of hone in on, my enjoyment of the film and the qualities within it. And I like Avenger X a little bit more. Right above that, The Three Fantastic Superman, a film that I had, when we sat down to watch it, at this point is when we cross into movies that I honestly, unreservedly recommend. Films that you don't have to, I don't think you have to completely caveat for people. You just have to give them an idea of what's going on, and they can enjoy it. So The Three Fantastic Supermen, it's a film that I thought in the past was a different movie. I was very happy to be disabused of that particular mistaken memory. Three Fantastic Supermen is a lot of fun. It is not to be taken very seriously, but at the same time, it moves so quickly and is delivered by the entire cast and everybody involved in it with so much energy and enthusiasm. I cannot dislike it at all. It's a lot of fun. Although and right above that is a film that I enjoy quite a bit, and I'm pretty sure this does not key into the kind of recency bias that can sometimes happen over the long course of watching a number of films, where the one that you watched most recently becomes the one that you are most favorable toward. But I do really enjoy Isabella, Duchess of the Devils, even though I think it could have been much better. If it had been directed by the director's brother instead of himself, I think that it could be a classic. As it stands, it's one that I really enjoy because I like those kinds of stories in general, and maybe just because it was such a different thing from the other films that we'd watched in this season, it rises a little bit for me. Then we get into the meat, the real stuff, and this one was a shock. Absolutely loved Diabolik, and I thought I would hate it. The idea that there was a parody, a kind of satire of these films and the comics that they come from, while the iron was still very, very hot in 1967, made me think that this was going to be a not at all enjoyable film experience. But I really enjoyed Diabolik. It won me over. Even some of the silly things in it didn't bother me nearly as much as silly things in other films do. I'm looking at you, Three Fantastic Supermen, with your strategically placed invisible trampolines. But Diabolik was a joy. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and what a surprise! Didn't expect to. Right above that, we have Argo Man, the Fantastic Superman, which I absolutely adore. I've seen that. I've seen that movie multiple times over the years. I can't decide if I would prefer it with its rather mean-spirited and vicious and murderous prelude sequence. I think I kind of would prefer that is the way the film starts. But I'll take Argo Man. In any way that I can get it. So.
I think when you've got your hero starting out by saying kill each other, like is that how you really want your audience to be introduced to your hero?
But then again, I mean, considering that all the main characters of most of these stories are at best anti-heroes, maybe that would be the way to go. I don't know. Next, Super Argo. Now, here's the thing. This is where we did both the film and its sequel. Yeah. I've made no bones about the fact that I kind of prefer the sequel. It's just more fun to me. I like both movies quite a bit, but there is something about that sequel where it just seems like it's more comic booky in its not its presentation, but in its structure and the way it handles, having a sidekick character and the way it handles the various things that go into the plotting. I like both Super Argo films. I would lean toward the second one a little bit more than the first, but both of them are great in my opinion. And then we come to the two Criminal films. Now, Criminal being in second position, unless you count the fact that we're talking about two movies here. Yeah. I think Criminal is amazing. There's something about that movie that really does appeal to me. I could see how it might be a turnoff for some viewers because it does lean a little darker than you might want. But then again, it really could have and should have probably been a little bit darker than it is. But I do love Umberto Lenzi's Criminal from 1966. And its sequel is a good time too, although certainly a lesser film. Sitting atop the list is the one that you would expect, and that would be Mario Bava's classic Danger Diabolik, one of my favorite films of all time. And of course, just an exceptional piece of pop art, action, thriller cinema. So there you go.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. We've got some differences, some similarities. I don't think anybody would argue with you about putting Danger Diabolik at the top of the list. I mean, that is, while some of these films are still not out on DVD or Blu-ray, we're about to get Danger Diabolik in 4K. So that's clearly the film that the world loves the most, if nothing else. Okay, here we go then. I'll start at 10 and we'll do the countdown. So at 10, I've got Phenomenal and the Treasure of Tutankhamun.
We agree, yes.
I feel bad putting our friend of the show, Ruggero Deodato, at the saying that his is the worst film of the season, but it was just so disappointing and so flat. Nothing much really happens. The main character is kind of pointless.
It doesn't catch fire, and it doesn't catch fire until like 30 or 40 minutes into the runtime, and that's deadly.
Yeah, there's that whole sequence at the beginning that's like a security practice of stealing some paint. I don't know, just like there's so much
waste of
padding.
time.
Yeah. And then most of the publicity stills are around the Turkish bath sequence, which even that when it comes in the movie, those publicity stills promise more than the film delivers. So, yeah, bit of a disappointment. But Deodato, I mean, that was his first, I think, officially his first film as director. He's still learning the ropes, and, he'd learned his craft from Margheriti, but he wasn't quite up to speed yet in the terms of the filmmaker that he would become. So, yeah, disappointing. I've got number 9. This is where I think we just go in completely different directions from now on. So I've got number 9 is Avenger X or Mr. X. I found that film also a little bit flat. And again, the main character, in terms of, being some kind of hero or villain, doesn't really do much. And the secret, the film is not very confident in terms of his costume. And he doesn't wear it very often. It's different, and it's completely different from what we see in the poster.
It's more Eurospy than it is. Yeah.
It is, yeah. It would fit better in a Eurospy season really than this one. Then at number 8, I have the 3 Fantastic Supermen, and I would say that basically from 8 down, my order could be with some of these films, there's so little difference between them that ranking them is almost impossible, because I did like them, really.
Yeah.
I'd say 10 and 9 are my two least favourites of the season, and then after that, I like all these films for different reasons. But anyway, yeah, so Three Fantastic Supermen is number 8. Now, number 7, I've got Super Argo. And again, like you, I've just included both films because I find it hard to untangle the two of them in my brain now. So Super Argo versus Diabolicus and Super Argo and the Faceless Giants. Now, is Super Argo the one where he has a guru and he's meditating to get his powers? That's
Yes.
That one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's primarily in the sequel.
In the second sequel, yeah. And it's good. I mean, they are good. They're good fun. At 6, I have Isabella, Duchess of the Devils.
Yes.
That was really good. I really thought that was a very good film.
Enjoyed the hell out of it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And number 5, and this is where we do start to differ particularly, I have Criminal and Il Macho di Criminal.
Okay.
I thought they were good, but I didn't think they were better than the films I've got coming next, which is at number 4, I have Argo Man, the Fantastic Superman.
You'd be hard pressed to not find that description apt. Yes.
And I think mainly because that is one of the films that it kind of delivers on the 60s pop art that most of these films kind of promise. That is a film that he's got. It's very influenced by Batman in terms of he's got a secret lair, he's a playboy millionaire, and all of that sort of stuff. And it's quite tongue in cheek as well. It draws on the humour that you kind of expect from some of these films. So yeah, I really enjoy that one. At 3, and this is where you and I perhaps differ the most, I've got Satanic. I really liked Satanic.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't dislike it as a film.
Sure.
I think that in comparison, especially in that season, it's like it doesn't work as well as I wish.
Yeah. No, I can see that, but for me, I felt it delivered again on the sort of pop art thing, and it's much more dynamic than some of the other films. So yeah, I love
the direction in the film. If we were to arrange these in order of most interestingly directed, Satanic would be much higher on my list.
Sure.
To be blunt, yeah.
Now I've got 2 films left, and some of the listeners might want to fight me because at number 2 I've got Danger Diabolik.
Oh my God, we must end the podcast now. Everyone, I apologize.
It's over.
We're done. We're done.
3 years, but that's it.
We're going to have to punch out now because holy crap.
I don't get me wrong here. I love Danger Diabolik, and it is a masterpiece, absolutely. But it's not been my favourite film. If we're just looking at, I've basically put these films in order of my favourites and films I would want to watch again.
What's horrible is that I now know what your favorite is going to be, and I'm almost appalled. But go ahead.
Because at number 1, I've got Arriva de Relic.
Scoppia rimbomba, si tratta di me, dai reggiti forte che spacco le porte, arrivo da te, bambina hai scelto la vita dura, scegliendo me, ma i baci che ti do ti fa morire.
For me, that was the discovery of this season. And I'd never heard of this film before, and I imagine a lot of people possibly hadn't heard of this one before, because when we talk about Fumettis, this one never comes up, because it's a spoof, it's not an adaptation. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I knew about this movie was because we read about it in a review of one of the other films. And so it was just such a discovery. And to then find out that it's kind of like this lost Terry Thomas performance that I'd never seen before, and Terry Thomas is hilarious in this film, and the that running gag where he keeps driving his car between two things and getting stuck. Just little things like that were so funny. And Johnny Derelick is so charismatic.
He's such a good performer.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that shocked me about Derelick, and probably one of the major reasons I enjoyed it as much as I did is that he's not mugging for the camera. He's not winking. He's not winking at the audience. He's playing it straight, but he's very charismatic. He is honestly funny. Yeah. It is a film that deserves to be better known outside of Italy. It's a very good little film.
Yeah. So for me,
it's not better than Danger Diabolik, so you're insane. But,
it's a discovery for me of just finding something that I would never have heard. I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of Johnny Derelli. This is not a film I would have ever come across in my day-to-day life, I don't think, unless I found some reference to it somewhere in a book that I'd otherwise have missed. But I loved it, and I want somebody to do a Blu-ray of that movie and introduce it to the world. I think people would really
I agree
get a kick out of that one. So yes, I know it's a controversial, but for me that was my favourite film that we did of the 12.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you about the qualities of the film, but I have lost respect for you. So.
Now, looking at all of those films, now you've got a list in front of you. If you could be any of these heroes / villains, who would you be?
Oh my.
Whose powers or skills
probably
or costume would you most want to have?
Well, I don't know about the costume because it makes you way too easy to spot. I mean, bright yellow is not the way to go. No. But I wouldn't mind having the powers of Argo Man, even with the limitations that are placed on him.
Yes, because it depends how busy your sex life is as to how much of a detriment that will be.
You would have to time things, and that's okay. I mean, as you get older, you have to time things anyway, and I'll just leave that there. But no, I think I'd probably go with Argo Man because there's a lot of fantasies fulfilled right there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think I would have to go with Diabolik because he's got the secret lair and the revolving bed and
Marissa Mel
and Marissa Mel to hang out with, and the cool car. And his costume is awesome. Although, I mean, I wear glasses, so I'm not sure how well the costume would work for me. I mean, I guess his eyes are the only things that you can see, so you could stick some glasses in there.
I'm assuming you would have to have. Some type of LASIK surgery or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because when you look at the new Diabolik, he uses his face, his mask making equipment very well, so that wouldn't work if you were trying to stick glasses on top of all those. It'd be a bit of a giveaway.
Yes. Would suddenly did he wear glasses before he got in the elevator?
No, but I think I'd want to be Diabolik the most. Although he's not, he hasn't got powers, but he's got bravado and cool
and style
and lots of money.
Oh, there's that. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, get in touch. Let us know who you'd want to be and how much you agree or disagree with Rod or myself. It would be interesting to get some feedback on that as we've gone through all these cool films, many of which I'd never seen before. And there's at least two of these films are going to be restored soon and get releases.
Yes.
And we will be involved, all being well.
Which I'm excited about.
Yeah. And let's try and get a campaign for some of these other movies to also get restored. I mean, if you could pick again, let's do another pick off that list. And thinking of the films that are not currently restored or available, if you just had to pick one to be restored and released, which would it be?
Oh wow! Well, I would. That's a good question because part of me, loving the whole rapiers and ruffles kinds of thing, I would maybe go with Isabella in the hopes that there would be more films of that type that would be trailing along behind or even packaged with it. But if we were to just stick with the more prominent examples of what we've been talking about. I'm torn between wanting. I would love to just see the Super Argo films get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Because I think they are a blast, and I think that they already have a kind of cult following in general to begin with. So, and let's admit, they were successful enough for there to be 2 of them, which was not true of any of these other movies. So, but I probably would lean a little bit toward Diabolik.
Yeah, agreed.
I really think it's fun, and I would love for other people to be able to see it.
Yes. The only other one I would add to that list for me would be a decent release of Argo Man. Which obviously did have a DVD release about, I don't know, 15 years ago.
15,
maybe.
Yeah, a long time ago now. Yeah.
But that's, it would be great to see a really good scan of that with the optional opening pre-credit sequence. And that's a film.
Interview stuff with Roger Brown would be fun.
That's a film that would be fun for people to rediscover. But hey, there are so many, and this has been a running theme across all the seasons we've done so far. Is
please put these out.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. After our post-apocalypse season, 2020 Texas Gladiators actually came out on Blu-ray and 4K.
And 4K, yeah.
Over here from Severin. So, yeehaw, thank goodness. I have it, but I still haven't pulled it out and perused it to see how glorious it looks. But, these things do happen slowly but surely, thank goodness.
You never know. Yeah, and that's it. So that was our 7th season, which is not bad going. We'll take a little break over Halloween, and then we'll be back in the autumn for a mini season of LSD movies. And then I think in the new year we will begin by heading back in time for all of those rapiers and ruffles and other types of old costumes and weapons. And that'll take up a good chunk of 2025, I imagine. I'm really looking forward to that. It will be interesting to do all those after being in the 60s for so long with most of these movies. So Rod, thank you for spending most of 2024 talking about Fumetti films with me.
It has been a pleasure.
And thank you everybody for listening. We are continuing to creep up in our YouTube numbers and our streaming on the various different podcast platforms, but it's always great to try and spread this and share this with more people. So please do share the podcast on social media, tell your friends, leave us a review, all of those things that will help us to find more people who might be interested in these more obscure corners of Italian genre cinema. So have a great Halloween, everybody, and watch as many horror films as you can. And we will be back in around 5 weeks, I reckon, with the beginning of this little mini season. So thank you, Rod, for doing this, and thank you everybody for listening. We will be back soon. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.